All right, if you have not had a chance to get some snacks and something to drink, some coffee or some water, now's your chance to do that. We are going to hear a story tonight from Mariah. Would you welcome Mariah? How you doing?
Good.
This is for you.
Awesome.
So during the story portion of Fresh Start, we just hear somebody's story. And Mariah, you have been through some stuff in life, as many of us have, and then experienced freedom. So we just want to give you as much time as you need to tell your story. I'll probably ask some questions, but really just we want to hear from you rather than me. So I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can kind of introduce yourself and just launch right into it.
Okay. So I chose this part of my life because I felt like it was more significant than others. What God had delivered me from was something that kind of, instead of me like offending another person or hurting another person, I had kind of just directly hurt him. And so to me, that was more significant than all the other things that he'd walked me through. So I'll start with kind of just an idea of what it was. I had experienced like some new age, occult type like beliefs, and got kind of wrapped up in that. So got really into like witchcraft and things that are kind of difficult to talk about because a lot of people don't relate to it. Most people can relate to a lot of other things that, in their life, like death of a family member or, depression or whatever, affairs and things like that are hard, but not everybody's can relate to this. It's kind of, So I'll start off with, I didn't really grow up going to church a whole lot. My family was Christian and they believed in God and they taught us about Jesus. But they didn't go to church every Sunday. I think they had an experience at a church early on that kind of just scared them away maybe, to where it wasn't really a habit of ours. So it was kind of like when something was really wrong, you prayed, to God to help you, or when something was going really good, you thanked him, type thing. And I just kind of always felt awkward bringing it up too much. So it wasn't super prominent in my younger years, but it was still, my parents are awesome people and they totally are all for God and stuff. It just wasn't like a church type environment. So there's a few events in my teenage years that kind of led up to me trying to reach out to God and find out a little bit more about who he was. And the first one was my mom, actually my mom and my dad both had been gotten cancer within a year, 6 months or so, I think, of each other. And that to me was the scariest thing ever to watch. My mom had it a lot worse than my dad did, but watching her health just decline, that was scary. I was questioning, am I gonna lose my mom? Am I gonna lose my dad and stuff? So that was scary. And then I had a family member that was kind of like an older sister to me. And I grew up with all brothers and the youngest of a bunch of boys, so I didn't ever have a sister figure. So this was huge for me because she was kind of like a sister, and she passed away. She lived with us for about a year, and we went to school together and stuff. And so she passed away. So that was really hard for me at 14 to lose somebody, and that was the first person I had lost. So I was kind of questioning. So that
happened right in the similar time that both your parents were
pretty
diagnosed.
Much the same year. It was all my freshman year of high school. My parents both had gotten cancer, and then my niece, she was actually older than me, but she was my niece. she passed away in a car accident like a week or two after she moved out of our house. So we were like sharing a bedroom, sharing clothes, going to school together, and then she was dead.
Wow.
And it was just really, really weird. And then I saw I think it was Oprah, something like that, show about the 2012 like apocalypse stuff that was.
Yeah, because the world was supposed to end.
Yeah, the world was going to end. So I was so convinced that that was going to happen. And I was like 14, so I'm like counting. I'm like, okay, so I'm never going to have kids. I'm never going to get married. I'm never going to have a normal life. I'm going to sit and watch my family get swept away in a hurricane or have the plague or whatever. So I'm just like so scared. And, if I brought it up to my family, it was kind of like a, oh, they've been saying that for years, just kind of like calm down. It's not going to happen. And I'm like, but they said, he knows, he's a scientist. So yeah, that was the three things that kind of, so then, the moment that I first really encountered God, it was, I was about to turn 16 and I was driving, my parents were divorced. So my brother would drive us back and forth from Soldotna to Anchorage. So it was that drive between like Beluga Point and Anchorage, where it's like really pretty and there's mountains and whatnot. So I'm like staring out the window and I'm just like, God, my parents are going to die. Whitney died. We're all going to die. What's happening? Are you there? Do you care? Do you love me? Like, what is this? Life is just weird. And so, I just had this overwhelming, like complete calm sense of just like, I can't describe it. Like he just told pretty much just without words was just saying, like, I love you, you're okay, you're safe, you're mine. And I just remember there was like a huge emphasis on Jesus. It was like something about Jesus. He just kept saying like, follow Jesus. Jesus is the way. And I was kind of like, okay, yeah, I get it, but I didn't understand why it was so like prevalent until now. And that I look back and I'm like, okay, that's what he meant. So that's kind of just a brief history of that. So, so
that's when you really started to trust the Lord.
Yes.
Even though you didn't really understand much what that meant.
Yeah.
That was kind of a turning point to where your life was going toward him.
Yeah. So I get home that day and I'm just like, I go up in my room and I'm like, find my Bible and I'm like, start reading my Bible all the time, start bringing it with me to school. I was 16, I think. So from about 16 to 19, I just started going to church 3 or 4 times a week by myself. Just trying to like find God, and I did. And I had a really good relationship with Jesus through those years. It was really hard. I ended up trying to be like one of those people that tried to fix people. So, boyfriends or friends or whoever, I'd find like the most messed up person and try to like, bring them to God or whatever, and kind of messed myself up not messed myself up, but, like made bad decisions in the process of that. So, that was my teenage, and then, so some of the things that I feel like were the seeds kind of that were planted that started the whole, like witchcraft was the first that I noticed, and I won't go too into detail because I'll talk forever about it, but the numerology. And I remember when I was like 12, I used to notice that clocks would change every single time I looked at them. And it was getting to the point to where it was like obsessive. Like I couldn't not notice it. They would change, or they would always be repeating numbers everywhere, not just clocks. It would be like addresses, phone numbers, just constantly. And, I would ask people about it or look it up and they'd, it's just you're looking for it or you're thinking about it too much. And I'm like, no, this is not just, so I feel like that was Satan's first way to get my attention, because I started to look into it, and then I started doing like the whole wish at 11:11 thing, because that apparently is like the most best time for like wishes to come true or whatever. So
numerology is looking for interpreting patterns and numbers, basically.
Yes. So it's like looking for you just go down this whole rabbit hole of things. So looking for meaning in numbers basically is what it was. So that was very early on. And then I got really so I actually wrote down the definition of witchcraft and another definition I'd like to just share for some people that might not understand exactly what it is. It's the practice of magic or the use of like spells or the invocation of spirits. And then the definition of magic, this is like Google, I don't know, the power of influencing the course of events by using mysterious or supernatural forces. And the part that really was an addiction for me. I think the more than anything was crystals. I just always loved them. They were so pretty. And like, I thought, I always looked at them like, okay, God made this thing, it grew in the earth. It's natural. I grew up working in a jewelry store. My family has a family business where there's, we have stones and crystals and stuff because it's a jewelry store. And so ever since I was a little girl, I studied them and I knew all of their names. I could look at whatever stone crystal and tell you what it is, what it does, what it, it's hard, all this, stuff. So it was kind of like I just knew so much about it that it was just like, I thought it was just my thing. So I was really attracted to that. And so I was really into crystals. I kind of got a little bit paranoid about like government conspiracies and things like that. In high school, I went through a phase where I would just sit at home and like watch YouTube videos about the Illuminati and all of that and aliens and that kind of thing. So I got really paranoid, and that actually did lead me a little bit closer to God in the process because I was kind of afraid, like it scared me. And so I was like, it kind of made me realize that was the, God was like the only way to protect me from all of that evil that I didn't really realize was there hiding.
Yeah. So when you're talking about witchcraft and spells and things like that, and then crystals in particular, it's not just the stone itself. Mm-hmm. It's the power that you're trying to manipulate with that stone. Is that right?
Yes.
So what was the draw for you personally to that supernatural power?
It didn't start with me trying to use them to do anything. It started with me just thinking they're pretty and being obsessed with buying them and putting them all over my house because I liked them. Okay. And to me, it was kind of like they were kind of, and this sounds really dorky, but they were like pets, kind of, that you didn't have to like feed or do anything with. Because I was like lazy, and I realized that I should not be allowed to own pets.
Because then you'd have them all over the house.
Well, not only that, but they would die. Or I would give them away because I realized that I don't want to take care of them. Yeah.
So a crystal is the perfect kind of pet for those who can't remember to feed their pets.
Yeah, you forget it, and it's nothing happens, But to me, they were like alive. And then I started looking into, first it was just like they're pretty and they're there, and then it was like, oh wow, they're all over, and then it was like, oh, they heal things, like they have purposes, and I'm like, oh cool, you're tired and you can't sleep, you put an amethyst under your pillow and you fall asleep. Sweet, that's awesome. I never thought of it like it was witchcraft. I thought of it was like just like you put aloe vera on a burn and it heals it. Like that, to me, that's exactly what it was. And a lot of people do see it like that, and I don't want to say that like if you have an amethyst on your nightstand, you're a witch. Like that's not what I mean, but it's just it gets taken really far. So the aliens and stuff, and things like chakras, trying to like align your chakras and open your third eye, which is really, really a scary deal. And that is actually first it was just like they're pretty and they're there, and then it was like, oh wow, I hear myself talking.
Yeah. Don't worry, I hear it too.
Okay, I'm going crazy. I'm like, okay, did it go away? Are we good?
I think so.
Mariah.
If you're crazy, we're all crazy.
Cool. I believe you. That was kind of funny. Oh my gosh. So yeah, being haunted
by yourself.
Yeah. That's funny. Okay, so
you were getting into aligning chakras and kind of opening your mind and your third eye and kind of exploring that kind of the supernatural beyond just sort of the more natural stone.
It very quickly became more than that.
Okay.
And one thing led to another, and it's kind of all about like the whole New Age thing is all about like enlightenment. And when you really start to look into like what that even means, there's actually a verse in the Bible that I wrote down that I wanted to share that had to do with the third eye that they mention. It's from the garden. It's like when Satan is trying to tempt Eve to take the apple and whatnot. So it's Genesis 3, and it says, "For God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." And a lot of people just read that and think like, oh, okay, your eyes will be open. But if you really compare a lot of like the new age practices that are dangerous to a lot of the verses in the Bible, it directly warns you like about specific things. But unless you've actually like experienced it or been involved in it, then you don't catch that. Mm-hmm. And I never caught it until after I looked back and started reading through, and I was like just in shock, and just my stomach was turning because I kept seeing things, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's what was happening. Wow. That's what was happening. That's what they were trying to get me to do or believe. Another belief that I had was about like other versions of Jesus. So like I kind of had this idea that Jesus was cool, like, you know, but he was no different than like Buddha or any of the other ascended masters that, you know, came to teach people about love and whatnot. It's kind of like that. And I didn't always believe that. I kind of woke up one day and realized that it had just morphed into that. It wasn't like I was rebelling against God. It wasn't like I didn't believe in Jesus. I loved God all along. I always had a good intention and a good, you know, I was just kind of trying to communicate with God without needing anything else, but just direct, you know, but I didn't really understand. So then I meet my husband when I'm 20, and that was, you know, a really big turning point for me, and that was just kind of like a dream come true for, you know, he was everything that all of the other guys I'd ever known wasn't, you know, just in all of the ways that I wanted. So that was really awesome, and immediately got pregnant like 6 months after we got married. So then I was a stay-at-home mom, and I wanted really bad to be like good at something, because I didn't like get to go to college and all that. So like I wanted to be like a master of something, you know. I always wanted to have like a profession. And to me, I was already good at the whole crystal thing. I understood it, the healing and stuff. So I wanted to be like a natural crystal healer, teacher type person, you know. Not necessarily as like a career path, but just as something to keep me occupied while I was raising my babies and stuff.
I think it's natural to want to master something.
Yeah. So the crystals kind of turned into, I got really into like healing or communication with like angels, like the archangels. And so like I knew all of their names, and I knew like this crystal would bring that angel, or this crystal was more apt to bring him or her or whatever. And so that was kind of the path I went down. And I started noticing the more that I had them on me, like the crystal, because I'd carry them with me. The more that I had them on me, the more that I had them around, everything just seemed really clear and easy and crisp. And it was kind of like being on drugs. And it wasn't just in my head. Like I could definitely feel everything was synchronized. Everything was going smoothly. And I've never really like done drugs. So I say that like, but I don't really know how to compare, but that's something that can like come to my head. I mean, it was like smoked pot before, but I've never like done hard drugs, but to me, I can compare like it to being like on drugs. And so I started noticing the more that I had this stuff around, that the more I had like, psychic type abilities. And this is the hard part that's like really hard for me to talk about, because a lot of people kind of roll their eyes at that, or they don't, if they've never experienced it, they don't understand it, or it's kind of just scary. It's just uncomfortable. So it's hard. But just noticed, you know, just a few examples. A lot of this I blocked out. So I don't really have really good like examples of what happened to be like, okay, this has happened. That was a psychic thing. Like I kind of just tried to brainwash myself to forget all of it, because I had a lot of guilt. But just a couple small examples is like, I would start thinking about somebody really, really hard that I hadn't talked to in years. And then I would start thinking, you know, like manifesting things, basically like, okay, this person's going to call me this week. Someone I hadn't talked to in years, had no reason to call me, and they'd call me. Just be like, I was just thinking of you, and just call you. You know, little things like that. I'd start testing it and playing with it and seeing if it would work. And it was working with that type of stuff. And then manifesting things coming to me, and then things happening. And it was getting really like addicting. And so I wanted to see a psychic to see if I could ask them, like, what is this? Just so I could relate, you know, because I felt so alone. I felt like I was going nuts. I was like, this is not real.
So you were practicing all of this stuff and learning all of this alone. You were figuring out all this by yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had friends that I talked to about it and stuff a little bit, but I didn't have like a group of like people that sat in a room and like did seances and stuff, something like that. But I did that kind of stuff alone. I mean, not really like seances, but like little type ritual-y things. I got to that point. Eventually, I did get to that point. Never, like I said, never ever was I intending to hurt somebody. It was never like, I'm going to cast a spell on this person because they cut me off in traffic, or, it was never, it was always like, I'm going to like do this healing. I called them spells, but to me it was like a prayer. But technically I look back, I'm like, okay, that was like a spell to heal somebody or to help somebody or to get something that I needed. So I started, I saw a few psychics. It was expensive and kind of a waste of time. And then I saw the last psychic who actually, she claimed to be a witch. And it was the first like real witch I had met, somebody that really just openly was like, I'm a witch. And that's when I started to classify myself as a witch, like a white witch. And
did you see any conflict between believing in God and also classifying yourself as a witch? Did you see any conflict there, or did that make sense to you that you could be both?
Honestly, the way that they have it put out now, they justify it so well that no. At that point, I was so I did feel like there might be a little bit of something wrong with it, but it was like I wasn't hurting anybody. That's what I kept telling myself. I wasn't hurting anybody. I wasn't ever going to try to hurt anybody. I just had this knowledge or power that no one else knew about, that didn't need to know about. Yeah. Because it was just working for me, and I was like, well, that's just my thing. You do your own thing, kind of attitude. Always good intentions. My heart was always good to other people, and to God. It was never like I'm intentionally summoning Satan or something like that. Like I didn't even believe in Satan. Actually, I got to a point where a lot of people that are involved in this, they think that Satan doesn't even exist, and they just think everything's like good energy or bad energy, and they will kind of there's no one to blame. They don't want to have to blame anybody. And to me, that made sense. I was like, oh, that's sweet, and then you're not afraid of anything because there's nothing to be afraid of because it's all your own fault, in the end, or like everything's karma. So like you don't feel guilty when the kids are starving in Africa because in their last life they were raping people. So that's what they deserve is kind of an attitude. Like that's not really how I thought, but that's how that's where it goes. Kind of karma to me. Now I look back, I'm like, doesn't make any sense. It's not okay. So yeah, that's just to kind of clarify that thinking. So I visit this witch, and she totally like blows my mind. She wasn't like a white witch. She was like definitely not good. And I could tell, but I didn't care. I wasn't afraid. I just wanted to get answers. I was like, tell me what's going on. So she did like a card reading or whatever, and I was like, oh, whatever. She's like, okay, you're going to call me in a week because you're going to be like confused as to, I'm like, yeah, right. So, cause the last two psychics were complete waste. No, I went back to her house like within a week because everything she said exactly happened. Like, and I can't, like I said, I block a lot of this out, and I can't give you like an example of what I mean, but it was to the point to where like I was at her doorstep, like, tell me more. What else is going to happen? And so I started showing her pictures of my family members, or not family members. There was like one family member, people that I knew, family, friends, people that I knew very, very, very well. And there's no way she could have known them or known anything about them. And she started telling me all about them just by looking at them. And yeah.
So did that make you want to know more, or did that kind of change your attitude toward the whole thing?
It kind of scared me. I think it really scared me, but at the same time, it's just like I said, like when you're on drugs, it's like you're scared of what's happening, but you're so like, it's adrenaline, and you're like, well, this is real. It's like a movie. Oh my gosh. So I was just like so into it. I was like, oh, I got to find out more. But at the same time, deep down, I was terrified. Yeah, it was not cool. So, I saw her. Let's see. Okay, so a few things that had happened. I feel like God was trying to get my attention. The first was I had a family member that sent me an email with a Bible verse, and she just sent me the email with the Bible verse and was like, just a reminder. Like, she wasn't like trying to, persuade me to do anything or stop anything. She's just like, just reminding you. And I was kind of a little bit of like, I wasn't offended, but I was kind of like, how dare you like think that I'm a witch, kind of thing. Cause that's basically what she was kind of saying, like in a roundabout nice way, But it was the first time anybody had ever approached me with it. And, I'm not surprised because I feel like a lot of people may have been a little worried, not worried, but, wondering about it, but they didn't know how to say anything because they knew I'm pretty, not stubborn, but like headstrong. I probably would have just been like, yeah, right. You don't know anything. You don't know me. So, the verse that she sent, and I've got 3 of them. I don't remember which one it was, but it was one of these 3, something along the lines. Leviticus 19:31. So this one says, "Do not turn to mediums or seek out spiritists, for you will be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God." And then the other one was, "But as for the cowardly, the faithless, the detestable, as for the murderers, the sexually immoral, sorcerers, idolaters, and all liars, their portion will be in the lake that burns with fire and sulfur," which is the second death. And Deuteronomy 18. That last one was Revelation 21. "There shall not be among you anyone who burns his son or his daughter as an offering, anyone who practices divination or tells fortunes or interprets omens, or a sorcerer or a charmer or a medium or a necromancer or one who inquires of the dead. For whoever does these things is an abomination to the Lord." I think it was that one that she sent me because I remember reading it and I was like, ooh, because it said something about inquiring of the dead and they're an abomination to the Lord. And I was like, I don't want to be an abomination to the Lord. And I just didn't have anybody that was like Bible educated enough to be like, read this. It says right here what you're, and if somebody would have come to me and been like, look, I probably would have maybe been a little offended, but I would have listened. So I did actually listen. I went and I got all of my crystals and everything. And I was like, maybe I should just put them all in a closet and just see how I feel. I was like, I kind of feel a little funny about this now that she said something. I kind of felt like God was trying to get my attention. So I took all my crystals and everything and put them in a closet, except for like 1 or 2, and, within about 6 months, it was probably 10 times more than what it was when I put them away. They slowly started to come back out. And I look back and I realized the problem that I had is that I got rid of it, and not fully. I should have burned it all then, but I put it away, but I didn't replace it with Jesus. So there was a hole. So, and I actually have another verse that has to do with that because it totally rings in my head, is that talks about when an unclean, so Matthew 12, "When an unclean spirit comes out of a man, it passes through arid places seeking rest and does not find it. Then it says, I will return to my house from which I came. And when it comes, it finds the house empty, swept, and put in order. Then it goes and brings with it 7 other spirits more evil than itself. And they enter and dwell there. And the last state of that person is worse than the first." So definitely I feel like that's exactly what happened. Like, it was gone and then it came back times 10.
Did you feel like your state was worse than the first? Or was it kind of that alternate state of mind, sort of like that, like you're describing it like drugs, that sort of made you feel like it was better?
It was like worse. Not I'm like it was not a good situation to be in, but like I felt better. Like I felt more like powerful, and I felt like I knew more, and I felt like they were working better, and it was just like they came back.
And it was that feeling of power that made it.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know, because I'm not like power hungry or anything. It was just I felt connected. I did feel connected to what I thought was God, and
So you kind of keep going down that road, but then you told me a story about when kind of you realized that was not
that
the
next
whole
note.
life
Yep.
was not what it appeared to be.
Yeah. So I had my
can you tell
wake
that
up
story?
moment. Yes. So that's exactly where I am. Is my husband had like broke his foot or hurt his foot or something, and he grew up Catholic, and he's a really, really spiritual person, but he didn't really like know any better. So like to him, this was just he just went along with whatever I did. And he knew I had a good heart. So he was never like, honey, you're getting a little carried away. He just loves me and wants to make sure I'm happy and was cool with it. So he was never, he just was like, oh, cool. So he broke his foot and he asked me, he's like, can you do like a spell? I called them spells. I thought they were prayers, they're spells, whatever, on my foot to heal it. And I was like, yeah. So I get all of my paraphernalia out. I've got like crystals and candles and oils and music. I got like that native flute music that's like playing in the background to like set the mood. And I smudged the house with my sage, and it's all set up, and I'm doing the spell or prayer, whatever. I've got my hand on the water, and so something tells me that I just need to go get a Bible, and I don't really like have a lot of them. I had like one that my mom gave me that is like a big white King James, like dinosaur looking,
like one of those big ones.
Like,
yeah,
flies off. And the picture of Jesus on the front, and it's kind of like halfway ripped off, but his face is there. And the pages are all gold. It's pretty. It's like my favorite Bible now. Something told me I just need to go grab it. So I go grab it, and I'm like, I can really, just in case. I don't know why that thought came in my head, but I just kept thinking, just in case, I need to make sure I have a Bible around. In case anything bad slips in. I didn't realize it was like, already I'm the bad one here. So I've got my Bible, and I've got my hand on the Bible, and I'm praying and whatever. So when I had actually had a relationship with Jesus back in my teenage years, I prayed in tongues a lot. Not a lot, but enough, to know what that's like. And those were the only times I'd ever really like experienced like, I don't know, I don't want to call it like seeing God, but like totally being like there, connected, hearing, feeling, the whole nine. I mean, I could have been like I don't even know. And so I hadn't done that in a long time. And that had actually had a thought in my head that I needed to do that. And so I, halfway through my little prayer thing, I start praying in tongues. And I open my eyes after I'm done. And my husband's like looking at me kind of like, oh my God, she's possessed. But he's kind of like not scared, but he's kind of just looking at me like, what was that? And I was like, it's okay. And he asked me, he goes, were you talking to the angels? Because I had an emphasis on the angels were everywhere. And that's what I talked about. I didn't really talk about Jesus much. I just talked about the angels. And then I said something that kind of hit me off guard. And I don't really remember. Like, do you ever say something, but you don't, like, feel like it's you saying it, and then you hear yourself say it, and you're kind of like, whoa. So I said, no, I'm talking to Jesus, and he's here right now, so you need to keep your head bowed. Because we were both bowing our heads and praying, our eyes closed and stuff, and he was just like, okay. So he, like, bowed his head, and we just sat there in silence for, like, 5 minutes, and my eyes were closed, and I couldn't, like, snap out of it. I was just so, like, I was, like, almost scared to open my eyes, I think. And I opened my eyes, and it was like, I feel like I was standing in the corner of the room looking at myself from the outside. And I was realizing, like, that I wasn't that, like, that was not that person. Like, that wasn't me. And I feel like I woke up that moment, and I felt sick. My stomach just dropped into my butt. And I wanted nothing more than to just get boxes and just take everything and throw it away. And I looked at my husband, and I was like, honey, we need to, and he's like, oh, thanks, babe, feel better, great, I'm gonna go watch TV or whatever. I'm like, okay. And I needed like a moment to like come to, because I just felt like I had just woken up from like a nightmare. And yeah, just the smell of the smoke candles made me sick, and the look of all the crystals that I used to look at and just meditate on and be so entranced with looked like disgusting. Like, it almost, this is really weird. I never thought of this example, but it almost looked like this is, I guess, it's kind of like when you're somebody this is kind of graphic. Sorry. It's kind of like, this popped in my head. I'm going to share it. I don't know. It's like when you're addicted to porn or something, and you're looking at like all these images, and it's like, you're so, oh my gosh, you're so like intrigued with it. And then once you get delivered from that and you're saved from it and you look at it again, it's like disgusting. Like, it's the nastiest thing ever. That's how I feel now when I look at certain things like crystals or things like that. I'm like, when it used to look so cool, and to somebody else might look cool.
So you had this sense that Jesus was there.
Yes. So I knew it was there. It was like, I literally, like, so I'm standing I'm actually still sitting there like numb, but I feel like I'm watching myself in the corner of the room, and I feel like he's standing behind me. I feel like he kind of walked in, grabbed my hand, pulled me out of my body, took me to the corner of the room, and was just standing there with his arm around my shoulder saying like, look, look what you're doing. And yeah, that was hard. Another analogy, or I don't know if it's analogy or metaphor, one of those things that I come up with is I feel like I was, this is a little graphic too. I feel like I was in bed, like with Satan, like I don't know, having sex with Satan or what. And God, Jesus, somebody walked in and like caught me cheating on him. And then Satan pulls the mask off, and I'm just like, wait, what? I thought you were, and he's standing there looking at me, but it's actually not him. But all along, I kind of thought it was him, and Satan's laughing, and that's that's a really good way for me to paint the picture of what it was. I mean, you think it's bad to cheat on your husband or cheat on your wife, but like legitimately cheating on God, yeah.
So at that moment, kind of the mask comes off. You see the crystals for what they are. And sort of that deception that has been building slowly over time is just sort of lifted. Mm-hmm. Was it all at once?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I had no desire to have anything to do with it at all ever again. I mean, absolutely. My husband's hauling, if I could have burned it, I would have, but it was like January. I'm like, it's 20 below. I'm not going outside. I'm standing out there, and it's trash night, so let's just haul this to the curb. So no, I threw away like thousands of dollars worth of, I'm talking like thousands of dollars worth of stuff, books, crystals. I mean, I had wands. I had the whole, it was like Harry Potter up in my house. Like, you start off with, oh, this is a pretty amethyst. This is a nice little oil or whatever. And before you know it, you're standing there with a wand in one hand. You got to stick a smudge sage in the other hand. And, you don't even know how you got there. It just happens. And so I threw it all away. And then I went through grief really hard.
So is that grief tied to the cheating on Jesus, the betrayal?
Yeah. I felt like I died. Like I felt like I was grieving myself because I felt like I was literally starting completely over as a new person. I was just born again that day. So I was grieving the old me because I died. I wanted that person to be dead anyway. So, but it was still hard. And then it was grieving the fact that I realized what I had done and just not believing that I was forgiven. I mean, I had to stand in the mirror several times a day, just telling myself, you are forgiven. God loves you. You are forgiven. You're not going to hell. You're not a witch. You're not evil. Because Satan, he will absolutely. So he was not happy that I broke up with him. He was a mad ex-boyfriend, man. This guy, he would like stand on my door, like outside of my window, and throw rocks at the window and stuff, like for months. And just when you feel like you're finally free from him, he texts you at 3 a.m. But it was, like the numerology stuff started. That was the first way he started to get me, is the numbers. And immediately following that, I felt like my house wasn't like haunted, but I definitely like prayed over my house really hard for like several days because I noticed things happening, lights, weird stuff, constantly. And it wasn't just like, oh, this is in your head. It was like, okay, something's weird. The numbers, I would get up 3 or 4 times in the middle of the night to go pee, and usually I get up like once or twice, but it was like 3, 4, 5 times a night. Every single time I'd get up and go pee, it would be 111, 222, 333, 444. For weeks every night. And it wasn't like I would set an alarm clock and like, how do you do that? You don't do that. Right. And it sounds crazy, but it happened. And just other little ways that he would just, do it. And it was like, just like a mad, jealous ex-boyfriend. So I started to look up testimonies of other people that had like been through this, and I came across a guy named Stephen Bancars, and he used to be like a huge New Age guru, like multi-million-dollar or millionaire, had like a crazy mansion and everything, and he had a similar experience where he just kind of woke up one day and was like, "Whoa, what am I doing?" And like sold everything, got rid of all of it. Now he's like has this a website called Reasons for Jesus, and he helps people recognize this kind of thing and helps them through like getting saved out of it and stuff. So that was, I watched his testimony and I just remember like bawling, snot running, just watched it like 4 times. I was like, this guy gets it.
I'm not the only one.
I'm not the only evil one. So then I started looking up other people, and there was a lot of other people that had the exact same, and not exact, but I mean pretty darn close. There's a lot of people. So I joined like Facebook groups. It's like New Age. It's called, one of them's called New Age to Jesus, and met a lot of really awesome people, been through the same thing. And it's really hard when you feel like nobody understands. And then you find that one person that gets it. You're like bonded. You're like, yes, we get it. You know, and especially when they're on the same side of it as you. It's hard when you meet somebody that's still on the other side of it, because you know that you really, the only way, I would say, if you know somebody that's going through this and you want to like help them, the only way you can help them is to pray for them. And that sounds really corny. But I honestly believe that is what happened to me. I think somebody was praying for me. I don't know who, but whoever you are, thank you. Because you must know who you are.
Well, I think when it comes to things like deception, like you truly believe. I mean, it's not deception unless you believe it, right?
Yeah.
And in order to be set free from deception or lies, the veil has to come off. Like it has to be revealed to you, and that's not something you can do on your own, right? No,
and you have to walk through the grief of it. You can't wake up and be like, okay, well, it's all good. And, you know, I couldn't leave my house for definitely days. Could not leave my house. I felt like everyone knew. I felt like when people were looking at me, I just got really paranoid, and I just felt gross. Like I took showers after showers. Still trying to wash it off. Yeah, it was, but you know, the good thing that I popped in my head too, when I think about being so like, drowning in shame about something that you do, is be thankful that you have that shame and that guilt in a way, because it's almost better, you know, to like have that heart that like you realize that you recognize that you did something wrong, and it's not okay to like punish yourself and to go crazy about it, and you don't want to sit there forever, but it's okay to walk through it, because that shows that you really you realize that you did something wrong. You know, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like I felt God's pain. It's like I wasn't going to just let myself get off the hook and just walk away and be like happy, hunky-dory. I was like, no, I'm going to suffer for a little bit here. And like, maybe that's not right, but you know.
Well, in Scripture, it talks about a godly sorrow, being sorry for the ways we've sinned and the wrong that we've done actually can lead us toward God. But then there's a sorrow that just holds us back, like the shame that holds us back and pushes us away from God.
Yeah.
And a godly sorrow pushes us toward a healthy place.
Yeah.
But the shame, you can't live in shame.
Yeah, there's definitely like a fine line there for sure. But yeah, definitely recognizing the difference between that. But yeah, I kind of, because then I started feeling guilty for feeling guilty. And then I was like, okay, I'm overthinking this. You need to take a nap.
So I think although some people probably identify with what you're talking about, your story, and many people probably don't. But I think it's easy to identify with letting God down and feeling guilty, feeling like you've betrayed Him at some level, and having that guilt and a feeling of shame about that. How did you deal with that? How did you get through that shame and walk out on the other side, where the very thing you're ashamed about, you're telling in front of everybody? Because that's on the other side of that shame, right?
Yeah, slowly. To be honest, it took me a long time. I mean, this happened when I had my moment, my wake-up moment or whatever. It was almost exactly a year ago. And it took me that long to really be able to even talk about it. Like, at first I was like, I want to tell everybody. I want to shout it to the rooftops. And then it started to really sink in. And I was like, I had to literally, I took everything out of my house that reminded me of anything. I couldn't even like think about anything like it, because it just depressed me. I was so depressed at first for a while. And then, some things that's kind of weird, but I think helped me through it in a weird way is like, because I definitely experienced like spiritual attack afterwards, like with Satan trying to like, I had one of the first things that happened was the number thing, and then it started getting a little bit worse. Like I had some, I had a couple of miscarriages like in a row, like right after that. I'm pregnant now. So
Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, we're excited. So yeah, that, and then our so I feel like he was kind of like trying to attack me in different ways, but that almost kind of took my mind off of the shame and the guilt. Like, as weird as messed up as that sounds, it was like something else to be upset about instead of this. So it was kind of helped me take my focus off of it. And then, like now I'm so much more thankful for like this pregnancy than I may have been if I would have just had it and it would have been no problem. And, now I see it for what it is. And every single day I'm just like, thank you for, this. And so I had that. And then like our finances, immediately after the baby thing, it was like our finances were just completely cut into like a fourth, like our income, what we expected. We bought a house and everything, and we were like expecting this certain thing to go through, and it didn't. And then it's like, what do you do? Luckily I have family that loves me and they've really helped us a lot through it. So, and then like things in my marriage, all of a sudden my marriage starts getting attacked. And so he's just hitting me from every angle, but all of those things have helped me to like kind of not focus on what happened and focus on these other real life things, and to find ways to like be thankful to God through. And I don't know if it's God testing me or Satan attacking me or a little of both, and I don't really care. I just know that it's going to be okay at the end of it. I have a peace about it, and it's like no matter what, he's going to send them, just like bring it on. Like I'm okay. I really have the tools now. I'm starting to have them.
So even though it's been really hard, so the deceived life was kind of smooth sailing. Yeah. And now that you're free of that, and on the path toward health, it's actually harder.
Yes. And I hate to like be so blunt about it, because I'm not trying to like make it sound like I'm not happy that I'm like where I'm at, but no, things are a lot harder now. But I'm okay with it. Like it's kind of in a good way. If that, I don't really know how to explain why. There's no like explanation for how God can give you peace in times when you shouldn't, when you feel like you really shouldn't have it.
Peace in the middle
of
all
the
the hard
storm.
times.
Yeah. And I know that, I was angry at a few times, I was mad at God. There's a few times when I was like screaming out like, whoa, how could you let me even get that far? Like, why did you never send like just some YouTube video on the side of my Facebook to be like, hey, click this. And I watched the video and I'm like, oh, I'm going to wake up now. Like, you can do anything, and you didn't wake me up sooner. Like, you really waited that long. And, just so mad, so confused. Why would you even do that? Why would you let me get so far close to that? I feel like I was like a little toddler, and God was just like letting me like walk at the side of a cliff, like just teetering on the edge. And then he was like, oh, okay, I'll pull you back, kind of thing. I was just so mad. And finally I kind of got an answer, and it didn't really like answer me, but it kind of made me feel better, I guess. It was that he just said that he's like, I knew you'd recognize my voice, not the voice of somebody else. So it was like I said, I had like that email that kind of woke me up. But there was another quick, because I forgot this part, throw it in there, is I had a coworker. It was like my second, I feel like kind of trying to wake me up call. And she mentioned, I was kind of shocked when she said it, because we didn't know each other very well. And she was like my manager, and it was very like unprofessional in the setting. So it was kind of like, but she just asked me randomly one day, she's like, who's Jesus to you? And I was like, I was kind of thinking like, well, who are you to, like, she wasn't like a perfect, not that anyone's perfect, but she wasn't like a very great, role model or whatever. So I was kind of like, well, why are you questioning me? So I just remember my answer kind of like, when I heard my own answer, I was just like, oh, I didn't really like the sound of it when I heard it come out of my own mouth. It sounded good in my head and it felt okay. But when I heard myself say it, I was like, ooh. I just said something along the lines of, well, Jesus is just, he's just an ascended master. He's probably my favorite one. I remember I said it. I think he's my favorite one. But he's just somebody that came to help teach us about how to love people, and he's really awesome. But, I said, he's one way to God, but he's not the only way. And that was really what I did believe for a long time. Because I didn't think it was fair. In my head, I didn't think it was fair for all these people that didn't get to learn about Jesus, that were born in whatever country where they teach is Buddhism or Hinduism or whatever. Why do they not get God? It's not their fault, that they don't have access to Jesus or whatever. And to me, that just wasn't fair and didn't make sense. And, to this day, I still don't have an answer for that. But that was my problem, is I wanted answers. And I was searching for answers this whole time, trying to get answers for everything. And, God's like, you're not me. You don't need answers for everything. Just trust me. And so I'm like, okay.
So kind of as we're coming to the end of our time, for people who are drawn to the New Age, kind of interested in, kind of feeling this curiosity toward interacting with angels and spirits and kind of the crystals and the powers, what would you say to people who feel that curiosity and attraction toward that?
I would say to run the other way, and don't. I would say to do your research, and first thing that comes to my mind is to say, like, oh, Google it first, but that's like that kind of how I got confused, because I believed Google over the Bible. So don't Google it, but definitely if you're interested in something and you're not really sure about it, don't just take your feeling on it. Definitely go to somebody that is a good solid Christian and be like, hey, do you think this is legit or not? And then ask them, because I just didn't really have anybody in my life that I was comfortable with bringing this up to without feeling really awkward or they had no idea how to answer me. So I'd say just don't at all. But if you really, really want to know, the answer to, if you're curious about if this thing is okay or not, there's a lot of things that are borderline okay. People, debate about yoga or whatever. I'm not saying if you do a few yoga moves, you're gonna go to hell. That's not, but you don't want to try to become some yoga master, because if you really look into the history of yoga and where it began and what it's trying to accomplish at the end, you wouldn't want to go there.
So what would you say to people on the other end of the spectrum who might say angels and spirits and all that stuff, well, that's just sort of nonsense?
I would say that just because you haven't experienced something yourself doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. But on the same sense, just because something exists doesn't mean that it's okay or that it's something that you should try to pursue. So acknowledge that they're there and they're real and they have their place, but don't try to figure them out. Because even if you're not interested in, even if you're trying to disprove it, you can still end up getting wrapped up in stuff that you just don't, there's no place for that. You don't need to.
Well, thank you for sharing your story. When it comes to angels, demons, Satan, all of that is in the Bible, right? If you read through the Bible, all of that is described and kind of not really explained, but described in the Bible. And the way that the Scripture kind of outlines the way that Christians and believers should interact with them is, we appreciate angels as God's servants, and yet we talk to and pray to the Lord. We're thankful for his servants, even the ones that we can't see, right? And yet our attention and adoration goes to the Lord. We don't pray to angels. And demons, it says that Satan often masquerades. He acts like angels of light. So when we're going down these these paths of curiosity, often they look very good. They look like, hey, this is, my motivations are good. It looks like this is all good. But like you described in your story, it's deceptive. And ultimately, it leads you away from the Lord. And it's in him that we have truth, and it's in him that we have freedom and life. So their ultimate goal, like Scripture says, Satan's walking around looking to see who he can destroy. And if he can destroy you through offering these these kind of interesting or powerful things, he'll use that.
It's so shiny. It's like, I just feel like
it starts out with a really cool,
innocent
pretty
first.
rock or a pretty crystal, and it ends up to the point where you are in bed with the enemy, and we don't even see the path. We don't even see the steps that lead us there, because that's how deception works, right? So as Scripture lays it out, I mean, it says the enemy is not anybody to be afraid of. It says that Christ has disarmed the enemy. And really, the enemy only has the power that we give him. And he convinces us to give him power because he's a liar. So he's nothing to be afraid of. And yet he's nothing to be curious about to the point where we're tracking him down either. And we just want to sort of ignore him and pursue the Lord. And the Lord has enough power for us for good. And if we're designed to be interested in spiritual things, and the Lord has enough depth of spirituality for all of us that we can explore that for the rest of our lives. And he has good for us and not destruction. Mariah, thank you. Thank you for sharing your story.
You're welcome.
I love how the things like shame that tell you if people knew, they wouldn't like you. They would reject you. And then somebody who felt the shame, and now you're sharing your story because you truly believe it can help other people. I love seeing that freedom on the other side of it. So again, thank you. We all benefit from hearing your story of freedom. So thanks again.
Good.
We are going to take about 8-minute break. So here's your chance to use the restroom, get another drink of coffee, some water, some snacks. We will be back here at 10 after 8, and we'll kick off the teaching portion. Thanks, everyone.
Which basically tells a daughter that she doesn't matter. Her heart shattered, glasses half empty, tries to find a reason to live, can't think of any. But deep underneath the confusion and lies, she knows she was made to live from more than suicide. It's do or die time. She chooses option one, rises up, sings his anthem from the bottom of her lungs.
We were made to be more